Where are you
Las
out of,
Vegas,
Shane?
Nevada.
Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm coming to see you in about a
All
month,
right.
probably. Yeah, yeah. I'll have to reach out for you and get some tips. I'm bringing my
Right on.
kids, so I'm speaking over in Reno. So um, it's hard to get a direct flight into Reno. So we're going to spend the weekend in Vegas, and I'm going to take off to Reno, and then they're going to come home. So, um, yeah, man. Pretty good weather out
Right
your
now it
way.
is pretty beautiful. Sunny skies and not too cold in the daytime.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm excited to get to know you, man. You you're an ideal guest for the Second Chance podcast. You sounds like you're just reading, learn about you. You've you've got a great story here to share with us today. So we'll introduce you, and then we'll kick off here and get going. Does that
Sounds
sound
good.
good?
Ready to go.
All right, man. So today, we're honored to have Shane Jacob with us, certified life coach, professional horseman. If you're not tuning in live, make sure you take a second because my man he represents what I would expect a horseman to someone who calls himself a professional horseman as they show up. You're looking good today, Shane. Entrepreneur and author. Shane's journey is one of incredible transformation. After battling addiction, enduring personal struggles, and facing consequences of his own choices, he found hope and healing through faith in his connection with horses. Shane is now dedicated to helping others discover their worth and embrace positive change through his coaching program and inspiring message. Get ready to hear a powerful story of resilience, redemption, and the unwavering belief that second chances are always possible. I'm excited, man. I'm excited to get to know you. Welcome and glad you're here with
Jeff,
us
thanks so
today.
much for having me with you. I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate your show, what it stands for, and hopefully we continue to spread the good word and that hopefully that somebody can gain something that is helpful that needs something that's helpful.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's. I think there's always that hope. You know, there's two guys sitting here having a conversation. We're going to publish this to the internet. It's going to go worldwide. So we hope that this gets in the hands of the people that need to hear it the most. And I think it's pretty much always the case. Just talking to different folks about how they found us or listened to us. But you got this. You got a great story, man. We all have a turning moment. We all have a pivotal moment. Um, what was that moment for you, Shane, when you realized, like, hey, it's time to make a change and break free of some of your addictions?
Yeah, it'd been a long time. That moment, you hear a lot in this with addiction about, you have to reach your bottom, or you have to have this terrible thing happen, and I guess really what you have to do is just decide that you've had enough of what's going on, and whatever you call that, your rock bottom. But I had been waking up every day for so long and telling myself, I'd wake up and say, Shane, you got to stop living this way. This has to stop. And I'd be so ashamed of what I was doing. And within a matter of, a couple hours, I'd go and do the same thing again. This repetitive
Yeah,
cycle of me, it changes you, and it not for the good when you're not living, when you should be doing something else, right? You're doing something harmful for yourself and for the people around you. But I had a I had a brush with the law. I didn't have a charge. I just had a kind of a close call kind of thing with the law again. And this was later on in life. And um, you know, one thing I will, and so that brush with the law is something that just said, okay, I've got to quit thinking about this and actually take some action. And so I did. I that. So this kind of close call, it just, like, I thought to myself, man, look how old you are. You're going to end up the same place you were when you were, you know, 23. Uh, what are you doing in this lifetime? And it bothered me enough that I started taking some steps.
you brush with the law, and then you set out on your own. But did you have these influences that came in and started helping you kind of navigate that, or what did that? How did um, did you were you able to overcome a lot on your own, or did you have to seek outside
I'll
help?
tell you. So, just to give it some context, for 22 plus years, I drank to excess on a daily basis. Okay. I mean, to excess. Okay. And I mean, on a daily basis.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm 100%er. In over 22 years, I missed 2 days of getting smashed. And that was when I was hospitalized on two separate occasions. Okay. Not 2 days in a row, two separate occasions when I was in the hospital and really didn't have the capacity to get access. And when I mean
yeah,
to excess, I'm talking about, drinking, 24 plus beers in a 24-hour period, 24 to 30 in the end. Okay. 24 is not enough in the end. On a daily basis with nonstop. So that's where I was at. The thing that helped me, and the thing that I've observed, and the thing that I believe is a requirement that I didn't know at the time, but in looking back, that one of the things that helped me was a belief that I had in my head. I had an idea that I could be a different person, that I could be sober. I had an idea that I could believe that. I could see it. I didn't really know if I could do it, but I always had this thing, always, for most of the time, and I had this idea that, hey, you're not going to die. I was getting close to, you know, dying drunk, just like penniless, with nothing and no people, no good relationships. And I could see that I was getting closer to that, but I had this belief that that wasn't going to be me. And so when I combined that belief with what wasn't going to be me, I thought about it for a long time. What I mean by that, I thought about it for months, almost a year. I thought about it for about 8 or 9 months. I thought about what it would be like. I thought about, because, after 22 years of a daily addiction, it's who I am. I mean, it's what I do. It's
yeah.
my people that I'm surrounding myself with. It's how I operate my life, you know. And it wasn't a good life, because most of it was wrapped up in shame and lies, and it wasn't a very fun time. But that was my life. I thought about it, and I made a resolve, and I had no idea if I could do it. I didn't know if I could do it. I didn't know if I could do it. But what I did know is I didn't want to be. I'd heard so much about relapses, and I'm like, you were sober for how long and then you relapsed? I'm like, man, it just sounds hard. I don't want to do that. But I didn't know if I could. The only thing that I could do that I could is that I would try. And I really put a lot of thought into how it would all happen. And so on the second Saturday of January, and it was 2016, so I just passed 9 years the other day. On the second Saturday of January 2016, I took an old truck and I drove myself to a detox, because I'm telling you, Jeff, I was afraid that coming off alcohol, I could die, right? Because alcohol, a lot of times you can have convulsions, and like I thought my heart would stop and I might die, because I was also extremely physically addicted. I'd wake up in the morning, and if I ever had to ride anything, it didn't look too pretty because I was shaking so much. And so I drove myself down there, and it was a humbling experience. What I mean by that is I was kind of used to thinking I was all everything and in charge of the world and running my own little company. And, at that detox, I was just like every other person on the street, turn in my phone, turn in my everything, and, cooperate and follow the rules, which I did. I stayed there, and they medically uh, uh, basically took me off of alcohol and monitored, and
Yep.
like whatever they did to keep an eye that everything was fine. And I stayed there for 3 days and 2 nights, and I drove straight out of there to an AA meeting, and I didn't look back. And thank by the grace of God, I like to say by the grace of God and horses, this whole idea of God, a lot of times people don't like to mention it. We have to say higher power. We don't want to offend anybody. I'm telling you, by the grace of God is the only reason that after 22 plus with the help from God, that I was able to go 3 days and 2 nights in a detox and never ever go back, because I had no idea. The only thing that I knew is today I'm going to do my best that I can not to drive over that store and start this cycle again. And so I did that, and then I kept doing that, and I did it yesterday too. as a matter of fact. So that's where I'm at.
What? How did that get started, Shane? How did we go from your life? How did you end up in this cycle of, over, case? Listen, folks, when you say a case of beer, I've drank a lot of beer in my life. Heck, I drink so much beer, I got a record too, Shane. That's what as I got my DUI, it's what the kind of the joke I tell people was, I drink so much I got a record. But drink a case of beer is that's like, that's a big task. How did this, where did it all come from? How did you get to the point to where it's a case of beer a day?
You know, I've come to know that part of the human condition is that we have to develop as we come into this world and become adults, and as we go through this lifetime, that we're constantly developing our beliefs about ourselves. And when and it's a process, and it's a lifelong process, and in the beginning it seems to be a little bit more bumpy, and a lot of times we're not taught, most of us, how to think about ourselves, and how we think about ourselves determines everything. And I can tell you that I didn't have any trauma to blame my thoughts on. Okay, I didn't have a bad thing that happened. I had a solid family. I had good values instilled into me, but for some whatever reason, I don't know, I had voices, I had thoughts in my head that said that, hey, you're not good enough, man. You're different. You're less than. Something is wrong with you. You don't measure up to the people around you. And I tried to fit in. I did pretty decent in sports. I tried to get into my peer groups as I was going in high school, started out going to college. But the whole time I had this, I was very shy, very, introverted and kind of afraid. And really what it was is that I didn't know what to think about myself. And so I thought something was wrong. I thought that I was different or less than everybody else. But when I was 16, a couple guys and I were going to a dance, and somebody had brought along some beer. And you know what? After a couple of times of that, I found the solution to how I was feeling. And I felt okay, and I could relate to people, and it felt comfortable. And I mean, like, problem solved. I mean, I was like, I solved my problem. I was pretty happy about it. And that mostly, but in part, primarily led to, a lifetime, a good chunk of my lifetime of addiction. And it was not a good time. I will tell you that, I've been locked up a bunch of times as a young man, and it's not fun. But worse than that, let's just the pain, some of the things that happened as a result of my drinking caused so much pain and suffering to other people, uh, that I'm just
Yeah.
so sad to say it. And I'm talking about things that can't be fixed. They're permanent. Okay. There's destruction and pain that I caused as a result of my drinking that doesn't go away. And as
What's an example? What's an example of that, Shane? I'll interrupt you. I'd like some clarity with that. It's like, what is that permanent? What would you say is a permanent
I'll give you
effect
an
of your?
example of that. An example
Yeah, please.
is waking up in an emergency room hospital, and knowing that and that not everyone survived the crash. Okay, those are things that you
Yeah,
can't fix. I'm talking real permanent.
yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
um, this I have a scar from a steering wheel um, where I hit the steering wheel pretty hard, but which is nothing compared to uh, the result of what happened. Okay. Then the other thing is so as these things are happening, or an event like this crash I'm describing, what happens to my thinking in these as a result of my drinking is I continue to fuel my feelings of just being less than, of worthless, of inadequacy, of inferiority. And the cycle, I continued to feed the cycle. I thought it was a way out, but it continued to make it worse, unbeknownst to me, for a long period of time. a long period of time. In addition to that, my close relationships that I had, I mean, what are going to be my options now? I mean, is suicide a good option for me? I don't know. I didn't take that choice. I'm glad I didn't take that choice. Sometimes I wished I wouldn't have been the one that woke up that day in that hospital, that it would have been somebody else could have had the chance. I thought that a lot, but it didn't. It was me that woke up that day in that hospital. And so what was I to do? And for a long period of time, I just buried myself in that shame, and that I buried myself in the shame, and I buried myself in alcohol. And that's what I did. And as a result, I'll tell you additional things that were happening. The people around me that I thought that I had relationships with were slowly disintegrating with my children. I had a marriage of 17 years that ended, right about the same time that I was decided to finally break free from this life. And those things that happened during those years, I mean, the past is the past. But what I'm saying is I can tell you two things. I can't go back and fix what was done to anyone or to me. But as a result of what I did, I can tell you that I'm in a position to where I can talk to people about how they feel when they're in addiction. And sometimes that has been helpful for those people. And so that's a blessing that I have as a result of what I did.
Did you get to a point, Shane? People struggle with this, and the reason why I ask it, did you get to a point of where you could forgive yourself?
That's a big thing about self belief. We might ask forgiveness from God and from others and try to do every we can to make amends and make things right. And most of the time, the hardest place that we have to look is within ourselves. And it's a lot of
Yeah.
times it can be hard, and I can be the poster child for that. But what can be hard is to separate our value as a soul, as a human being, to separate that with what we have done with an action as an imperfect soul, right? That can be a
Yeah.
challenge for all of us, because a lot of times if we're not, see, what happens is we're constantly making meaning about what we think about ourselves, about our beliefs. And if we're not conscious about it, it's happening anyway, right? And this happens over our lifetime. So we're going along and things are going pretty good, and one of two things happens. Either I do something and then that I wish that I didn't, and then what does that mean about me, right? Or somebody says, "Hey, Shane, you did a really great job." And so then I feel better about me. Or, like in the case of an abuse, as an extreme example, somebody else does something to me. Boom. What does that mean about me? Right. So we're constantly making meaning as we go throughout life. And if we don't do it intentionally, our brains will make meaning for us. And usually what that meaning is going to be is you're not good enough, and that what you did
Yeah.
defines what you are, right? But the thing of it is it doesn't matter what you have done. And I'm talking to everyone who will listen to this and will listen to me. And I said, it doesn't matter what you have done. Regardless of what you have done, you are still 100% whole. You are invaluable and priceless as you are, regardless of what you have done. And that's a hard thing for a lot of us to accept.
I agree with that. This the this new focus and this new life you find takes you on this path of meshing horses and faith into your recovery. Help us understand those two elements and how they became central to you and how it helped shape your outlook
Yeah, I
on life.
appreciate that. Horses are cool. I've been blessed to be able to spend my working career working with horses. They're one of an amazing creature, and a magnificent creature. It's hard to be around a horse, in the presence of a horse, and not just feel that there has to be a greater creator that created something so amazing. When I was a kid, I was named after a Western movie, Shane, that came out about the time just around a little bit before I was born. And so, I grew up, and my family was in the ranching business, and I always wanted to be a cowboy and do all the things that cool things that cowboys do. And so I did. So I got into the horse business, and I've done a lot of cool things that cowboys do. Horses, you know, the man and horse is a relationship, and there's so many similarities between human beings relating to each other and us relating to horses and horses relating to each other a lot of times. And I'll just say this, okay? On your subject that you just asked me out of forgiveness, horses are a stellar example of forgiveness, because here's the thing about horses, okay? In this relationship that we would have with horses, it's just like with people. I'm going to make some mistakes with my horse. It's going to happen. I might even get my emotions involved, and I might uh, and I might do something that I thought was unfair. I mean, it happens, right? It's a relationship, and I'm a human being, and so when that happens, horses don't just roll over and have no consequence. There's a consequence for what you do in this relationship with this horse. But when I recognize, and when people recognize with a horse that what they're doing is unfair, and they go back and fix it, it's over. Okay. There may be some residue, but when you rebuild that trust with that horse, he lets it go, and he lets it go for forever, as if it never even happened. And so in that
Yeah.
way, and so you can, uh, horses are a super example of what, I try to do, A, with myself, and B, with the rest of the human beings, because it works. I can see it so clearly with horses, and and you can see that, and they're just a great example of good living with forgiveness, for sure.
There's a place, I'm in Virginia, and there's a place down locally, Healing Strides, to give them a little plug. But they work a lot with horses and implementation into PTSD recovery, and so they're huge in just you'll see a lot of military folks, PTSD survivors, and they integrate their part of their healing journey is working with the horses. So I've talked to people, and I've never been there myself, but I've talked to people who've been there, who've took part in their programs, and just to speak to, that's the little bit of knowledge that I have on the healing power and just the therapy of being able to work with those amazing animals.
Therapy is so much.
Um,
Horses are good therapy. They help us heal, and they can help human beings in so many ways. I think it was Winston Churchill's credited with saying that there's something about the outside of a horse that is good for the inside of a man, which is, I find, to be
yeah,
true.
you've your struggle with your own, and all of us have this, your own inadequacies or your own unworthiness. Um, the folks that are listening to us now, what advice do you give? Um, I remember a point in time when my now wife was like, you've got all these destructive behaviors. Um, how do you, and a lot of the stuff you spoke to, and some of the notes that I had made was similar type environment type stuff. But that advice that you give to someone that's stuck in similar habits that you had or that I had, and just that they're going through this cycle of absolute destructive behaviors. What is that? What advice do you give to that
Yeah,
person?
we've touched on a lot of it, and I really appreciate that question. It's like, well, how do you get out? If you want out, and we really do have to have a vision of who we want to be, and we really do want to be able to make that change. And if you have that, and you understand that your thoughts about you are important, they're going to determine your results. And if you understand and you're willing to develop beliefs about yourself, those beliefs and those thoughts that you have about you is what's going to create a feeling that's going to drive your action to get you out. And I've identified 8 habits of people to develop beliefs about ourselves. And one of those is one that you brought up, and that is that we have to continually, right? We have to continually forgive ourselves and others, and which that's a big subject. And so that's one of them. I'm going to give you one more of the 8, which is a little one, and it's talked about a little bit, but a lot of us are still doing it. And I'm telling you, these subtle little differences can make tremendous, uh, tremendous differences. And here it is: the words, the thoughts and words that you say about yourself. So I want to talk about the thoughts and words that we talk about ourselves. So let's define, I'm going to define what a thought is. A thought is simply a phrase or a sentence in our mind. Okay. And we have thousands and thousands of these that are zipping through all this chatter in our mind every day. At our default, in other words, if we're not intentional, if we're not aware and we're not purposeful, a lot of times our thoughts will not be complimentary towards ourselves. We'll be talking, saying, you know, I made a mistake and I'm such an idiot and I can't do this, and I can't believe I did this, and what the hell's the matter with me, and I can't hold my shit together, and on and on and on, right? Whatever these things are. And so here's the measure. Okay. First of all, is to become aware of the thoughts and the words that you're using about yourself. And the way to determine if it's the thought or words that you want to use about yourself is to measure it this way. Is this thought or this words that I'm saying something that I would want to think or say to somebody that I love deeply? And if it's not, you for sure don't want to be saying or thinking it about yourself. Okay. That's one little way. That's one little way that as you begin your language and your thoughts about yourself to slowly change how you think about yourself, then you're on the way. That's one of the habits. And you can actually cultivate that where you think you're, you know, I'll tell you something, Jeff, about that. You know, I was just ashamed of me. I didn't like being around me, and I was with me all the time. That's why I had to check out a lot, you know, just to survive it. And you can get to a place where, you know, I'm a pretty cool dude, and I like hanging out with me. You know, it's a pretty fun time, and I get a lot of stuff done, and I'm pretty proud of me. And you can. I used to not even be able to say, you know, I like myself. I couldn't get the words out. You know, I could not get the words out. And I can tell you today, I don't care what anybody damn thinks. I've lived with so much shame for so long. I couldn't give a rip about what somebody else thinks. I like me. Okay. And that's the only one that really matters to me. And you can get from a place where you either don't know or you can really make changes. And that this is the beginning and the foundation of making substantial change in your life.
Yeah, that's solid, man. You couple in a little bit of killing the negative talk. I had a client walk in the other day, Shane, and first thing he did is sit down and confess all his past prison time and crimes, and um, came to talk business. Right? We were chatting up, and he let in. He let in. It's like, hey, I just need to tell you a couple things. And finally, I was like, let him talk, right? And after he got done, we got through the first little business. What would you like? What can I do? We were working through that, and finally, it was the conversation is all going in the right direction. And then he was, we get to the word of the strategy. What can you do, Jeff, or what's this? And I was like, all right, get your pen, and I was like, I need you to make some notes. And he was like, and I said, listen, don't ever come into a freaking business meeting again telling me about everything that you've done that is irrelevant. It does not matter. I don't know why you brought that up. And I just kind of gave him the same butt chewing that I would want somebody to give me. And he's sitting there, and I'm like, here's a moment of whether this conversation is going to continue in a positive way, or you're going to tell me to go to where I can get off. And man, it was a very moving moment for him because he was like, I don't know why I do that, and it took me into I help him discover. I'm like, your problem is one of the things I feel very confident. You tell me if I'm wrong. Is you've never forgave yourself. And the fellow was just like these moments of going off, and I go, you don't know me from, what I mean, you met me on the internet, and you've scheduled to come have a conversation with me about how to grow your business. then the biggest obstacle that's in the way is your negative self-doubt and your lack of why you would even bring in things that happened 10 years ago that you've done your time. It's no, and it's not, there's drug crimes, right? So it's not like it's a carryover. Like, we're not buying guns. We're not trying to do anything that would be against the law. You're trying to run your business. And man, you want to talk about watching his this emotion in his face just change from, and I'm like, and this is the steps I need you to take to be able to start doing it. And he had told me this, and this is where I think you help a lot of people. As he said, a lot of people have told me I need to forgive myself, just nobody told me how I need to go about doing it. And man, that was really a great moment for me. And but you're spot on with that. And this is where I was going to take you, and because I was curious about this throughout all that part there, you move people. You're a certified life coach now, but your business is a stable living coaching program. You move your folks that come into your program. What does that program look like, and how do you work with teens and parents to help them navigate and find their own values and navigate their own challenges? Right? What does that look like, or give us kind of a 1,000 yard overview of your
Yeah.
program?
Appreciate the question, Jeff. Yeah. The thing of it is after a while, I'd been sober and I'd turned my life around. I'd really made some substantial changes and I'd evaluated what happened. And the thing I did is I looked back, and a lot of us have done this. And a lot of us have said these words: I wish I know then, what I know
What I
now.
know
And I know
now.
and so I developed stable living because I know that those voices in our heads, it's part of the human condition that we need to develop who we are. And a lot of us are thinking, and it doesn't just happen it's not something that you accomplish like, oh yeah, I'm a confident person now, or, I have a great self-image and I already did that, or it has a little problem and I'm going to fix it and leave it alone for now. It's something that if you're willing to commit your life to, is going to enhance your entire experience in this lifetime because it affects everything. It's at the core of everything. And here's the thing, let me just ask you this: what if you could believe anything you wanted to about yourself? Because you
Yeah.
can. And so I formulated a message and we relayed it to horses. A lot of it was horse inspired, like the example I gave with forgiveness. Horses have self confidence, personal responsibility, and the way. And horses. Just let me tell you this: you come to the barn, they know what's going on. You think you have a secret? You don't when you get to the barn. They already know. They're so reactive about they see and feel and notice things that most people don't, and people do too. A lot of times we just think they don't, but they're totally reacting on everything that's happening inside of us. And so they mirror what's in our hearts and our minds. And so horses are a good read for us of what's going on in there. And so we use horses. A lot of the principles in stable living are inspired by horses. And so we help families with teens to understand what's going on and make sure that you're on a path, because you can change the trajectory. And it does, and even as a teenager, to have a totally different end result, okay, a better end result, a more fulfilled and a more empowered and lifetime. And if you're parents, I have one thing to say about parents, because I am a parent and I know, and I talk to a lot of parents. And here's the deal with parents: all we really do most of the time is complain about our kids and wish we knew how to fix them. But the thing that we need to do is look right here to begin with, okay? Because we ain't
Yeah.
going to be able to
Yeah.
control them at a certain point, right? and and
Yep.
and if we will focus more right here, we're going to end up having a better result with these kids. And so parents make a lot of progress and changes their dynamic. It's not a perfect world, but we get a lot of stuff done in stable living, and I'm proud to have the program. I appreciate the question.
Yeah. A lot of people I've heard that, and I will correct this all the time. And it used to be something we all said, this next generation. And as I got older, I had someone be like, "Man, this new generation, man, I don't know." And I go, "Yeah, you raised them." And the fellow looked at me. He was like, I was like, "This is a product of what you did, right? So don't be mad at them for 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 how they was raised, and we just had a good laugh out of that. And he was like, you know what, I guess you're right. And I'm like, man, we learn, right, and we get better. Who's when someone's what is someone experiencing that's coming into your program? Not everybody's drinking a case of beer a day, Shane, right? So, but like, who is that when someone's thinking or they're looking or they're trying to find like this is what someone might be experiencing that comes into your program? What
Yeah,
does that look
that's a
like?
good question. Um, if you're experiencing deep depression or something, where you might need a licensed psychotherapist, if you're seriously depressed or something like that, that's not our deal. But we have a wide range of everything from preventative. In other words, I want my kid to be set up with every tool he can to have the best future. They just come in the program on a
Oh,
6 week preventative deal and get some tools and go back out, polish their armor and send them back out into the world with some skills that they'll be able to use for the duration of their lifetime. So everything from that to, isolation, won't have communication with the parents. Parents are suspecting, drug or excess alcohol abuse and, problems at school, problems with relationships, a lot of bullying online, and just all the things that we experience with kids that seem to be problematic. Um, we talk to, and we go through a lot of all those experiences.
when you look back on that, what's been some of your most rewarding part of sharing your story and helping others on their own journey? What's been the most rewarding for you,
Well,
Shay?
I appreciate that too, because you know what, that's the whole reason that I got into this thing, is because I thought, I looked at what I had done to people and to myself, and I thought if I could, help somebody not have that happen or have less of an impact. And I see substantial change in our program, but I don't know how many years or how long it's going to last, or I don't know that what that person's end lifetime is going to be. But I've seen so much change. And here's the thing about it, Jeff, is that when people decide to change, it doesn't take very long. If you've got the right steps and the
Yeah.
right tools, I mean, you can change right this moment. You can change this moment if you're resolved to do it, and have some steps to go about it, and you've got some backup steps to know what to do tomorrow, and you're going to work on this idea of becoming who you want to become, because you can, and believing that, uh, it can happen pretty quick. And so when I see these changes, everything from small subtle changes sometimes can be really rewarding. I see kids and parents change their behavior, and so it's one of the things that just keeps me driving. I'm sure you see the same.
Yeah. Um, Shane, what did I miss? Anything that you were like, man, I really hope we get to talk about this as I wrap up. Anything that I missed that you'd like to include for the greater good? And one of those needs to be just how we can get in touch with you. For the folks that are listening, they're like, I want to go, and you should, folks. This is a really unique opportunity when you get to go work among horses. I haven't done it firsthand, but I've heard of all the positive outcomes that come out of that. So whatever I missed, Shane, and then how we can get in touch with you, man, I'd love to
Our
hear it.
online stable living coaching, you can find us at thehorsemanshipjourney.com. And I'd just like to leave you with this, and that is that um, I said it before, but regardless of where you are and regardless of what you have done, you can come to know that you are flawless, that you are priceless, that you are
Mm.
invaluable. If you don't believe it, want to believe it if you can, and trust me when I say it, because the more that you can come to know that that's a fact that's true about you, and that we're the same. I'm the same. Jeff's the same. The world's the same. All of us have equal, no more, no lesser than, regardless of where you're at today. And the more that you want to develop that, to know, the more that you can come to know that, the closer you'll be to having the things that you want to have happen in this lifetime. And so I want you to know that. If you wonder if that's true about you, uh, I want you to know that it is. And I'm asking you to take my word for it. Thank you very much, Joe.
Shane, there's if you if you combine them, if you was able to Google it and then compress it on a lot of my episodes, you'll find me refer to some of my guests who I've connected with as hope dealers, and you're one of those that I'm proud to put into that category because I think you're all those failures, all the shortcomings, all the hell that you've raised throughout your life has led you to the path to where you have become. And you can wear that title amongst a lot of my friends and people, guests that's been through here with me as one of those hope dealers. And the world needs as many hope dealers as they can. And I think that way you ended that with that message amplifies that title of being a hope dealer that I'm able to grant you today as my second chance guest. So thank you for being with me, brother. I appreciate you. I want you to come back on in a few months with a success story. So maybe you can, as you're working through one of your projects, you can set aside something for some journaling to where we can talk about how whatever group came in and the things that you were able to do and the strategies you deployed and what that outcome looked like. I really think that would be a compliment to this first episode that you and I have together. So I'd love to do that with you
Sounds good.
sometime.
Thanks a lot.
All right, brother. Appreciate you being here.